Bloomberg just published an expose on Dragon Age the Veilguard, 4,000 words to be exact, on why the Veilguard failed. Proper deep dive into BioWare's inner workings, development hell, corporate interference, staff turnover, the whole lot. It was written by Jason Schreier, who you might remember from his Go Woke, Go Broke, Go Top of the Charts tweet when the game launched, and that aged well, didn't it? But here's the thing about this massive investigation. Somehow, in 4,000 words about why Dragon Age failed, they managed to leave out the most important part: us, the players, what we actually experienced when we bought this game, and why most of us hated it. Because while Bloomberg's talking about boardroom meetings and development timelines, we were playing a Dragon Age game where characters say, like totally, in a medieval fantasy world, where companions do push-ups to apologize for misgendering someone, where the dialogue sounds like it was written by people who've never played a Dragon Age in their life, or even wrote a script for that matter. So let me show you exactly what they left out and why gaming media would rather blame anyone except the people who actually wrote this stuff. Right, so what did Bloomberg actually cover? Well, buckle up, because they were thorough. 10 years of development hell, multiple reboots, EA forcing live service, then changing their minds, staff turnover, internal conflicts, Mass Effect team versus Dragon Age team politics, compressed timelines, marketing disasters. You guys following this, right? It's proper comprehensive. Corporate meetings, executive decisions, budget inflations. They interviewed nearly 24 people who worked on the game. 4,000 words of pure industry insider stuff. Cool story. And what were the results of all of that corporate chaos? Well, 1.5 million sales, missed EA's expectations by 50%, share price dropped 18%. The game was well reviewed by critics, apparently, according to EA's CEO, but we, the customer, didn't buy it, clearly. And look, credit where it's due, this is exactly the kind of journalism we want to see about a game's development. Real sources, real behind the scenes drama, proper reporting on how the sausage gets made. But here's what I want you to notice: in all of that corporate drama, in all of those interviews with developers and executives and sources, in this entire 4,000 word expose, how many player voices do you think they included? How many Steam reviews did they quote? How many examples of player criticism? How many viral clips or forum discussions or community reactions? Just one single quote from a Dragon Age YouTuber saying the fanbase reactions were mixed. That's it, one bloody quote. We're the ones who buy these games, we're the ones who play them for 20, 30, 50 hours, we're the ones writing reviews, making videos, telling our mates whether it's worth buying or not. We evangelize good games and bury the bad ones. But in Bloomberg's definitive expose on why Dragon Age failed, we're an afterthought, a single quote tucked away at the end. Because we were the ones who actually played the game, we were the ones who experienced this, and we chose to walk away. So let's look at some examples. What were we actually saying while Bloomberg was interviewing executives about their corporate restructuring? Because you guys remember all of this happening, right? Because I'm starting to feel like I'm losing my mind here. Am I going senile, or do we all watch the same game launch? One of the most upvoted Steam reviews says the writing is painfully juvenile. Another one, if Origins was Lord of the Rings, Veilguard is Marvel with swords. These aren't random trolls, these are verified purchases, hours played, people who actually played the bloody game. Like, surely everyone remembers all of the viral clips, the infamous push-ups apology scene where Isabella pulls a bar as punishment for misgendering Tash, the romance dialogue that sounded like it was written by someone who'd never had an actual conversation with an adult, characters dropping Marvel lines during emotional moments. Well, that was a thing that happened. The mad part is Bloomberg actually mentions that BioWare rewrote the dialogue because they were worried about the snarky tone. They were scared of ending up like Forspoken, which got hammered for terrible banter, so they did a belated rewrite to make it sound more serious. But Bloomberg never asks the obvious question: did the rewrite work? This wasn't leftover dialogue from the multiplayer version, this was fresh writing, new, specifically intended to fix the tone problem, and it became the main reason we all walked away. Even industry professionals couldn't stay quiet. Former BioWare staff called it condescending, the Ori director said it was like HR was in the room, SkillUp called it fan fiction, and meanwhile Bloomberg's explaining the corporate fear that led to rewrites while completely ignoring that the rewrites were still terrible. They were the problem. That's not journalism, that's protective cover. Look, if this is making sense so far, hit subscribe, because what Bloomberg just did, this isn't a one-off, this is the playbook they use every single time a beloved franchise dies, and we're just getting started. So yeah, this isn't new. Anyone else notice the pattern here? Because I've seen this exact playbook before. Mass Effect Andromeda, the media said 5 years of development hell, Frostbite engine problems, understaffed animation teams, and the players said the writing's terrible and the characters are boring. Kotaku even wrote a massive expose about corporate mismanagement, and Steam reviews called it uneven writing and poor storytelling. And Anthem, again, another BioWare game, the media said BioWare magic failed, corporate interference, 7 years of development chaos, and us, the players, said that it felt half-baked and that there's nothing to do. And another Kotaku deep dive about the process problems. We called it frustratingly mediocre and thin on content. And you guys seeing this? Every single time a beloved BioWare game dies, media writes the same article. Corporate drama, development hell, engine problems, leadership changes, same structure, same excuses, same focus on everything except what we actually experienced. And I'm certain they probably did ask about the creative failures. They had to. You don't interview 19 people about Dragon Age without someone mentioning that the dialogue was shit. But they chose to leave that out. They chose to focus on boardroom politics instead of validating what we actually experienced. Because if you never diagnose the problem, you never have to fix it. BioWare will make the same mistakes again because everyone's pretending it was just EA's fault. Not the people who wrote the shitty dialogue like totally into a medieval fantasy game. Here's how it actually works. Gaming outlets need these publishers: early review copies, exclusive interviews, advertising revenue, industry access. You bite the hand that feeds you, and then suddenly your competitors are getting those interviews while you're locked out. So it's easier and safer to blame faceless EA executives than point at named creative directors and say your writing team forgot how to write Dragon Age. Anyone else find it weird how they always do this? Watch the language they use. Legitimate criticism just gets reframed as resistance to change or mixed reactions. Steam reviews from verified players must be review bombing. Professional developers calling the writing amateur. They just don't understand the vision. They've built this perfect shield where questioning creative decisions makes you the problem. You're the one who doesn't get it. But here's the real story they won't tell you. BioWare systematically abandoned what made Dragon Age special. They replaced moral complexity with HR-approved messaging. Veteran writers left. Inexperienced teams took over. The Antivan Crows went from child-torturing assassins to workplace comedy. Tevinter went from slavery-based empire to super nice guys. That's not evolution, that's creative bankruptcy. But saying that would require actual criticism of creative teams, not just corporate gossip about development timelines. So Bloomberg's busy writing 4,000 words about meetings while completely ignoring that the script became a viral laughingstock. This is why gaming discourse and discussion is completely broken. Media focuses on the process, we focus on the actual game. They explain why things went wrong in boardrooms, we experience what went wrong on our screens, and it's deliberate. They had all the evidence, they chose to ignore it. That's not missing the story, that's deliberately avoiding it because admitting the creative teams failed would require actual criticism instead of corporate gossip. Bloomberg and Jason Schreier essentially wrote PR for BioWare disguised as investigative journalism. And if you want more honest criticism instead of industry protection, subscribe, because next time a beloved franchise dies, I'll tell it like it is. Anyway, have an amazing weekend. I'm off to play some Baldur's Gate 3. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one.